the things that I'm going to be trying to do in the new year is to cook healthier snacks for us, and healthier, like, instant grab them foods that aren't like just bakery stuff. So this is gonna be attempt number 1 at healthy baking. So thanks for joining me. If you're new here, my name is Lorrie and this is my world, and welcome to it. I'm super happy that you're here. And if you're coming back, I am so grateful that you come back and hang out with us. I really, really am. So let's do this. I'm kind of following a recipe, but I'm gonna try and make them healthier. So we're not entirely sure what to do or what's gonna happen. I know what I'm gonna do, I don't know what's gonna happen. So the recipe that I have is just oatmeal raisin cookies from my Betty Crocker cookbook, and I've just got it hanging here. And so one thing that I know about baking, and trust me, I don't know much about baking. I do know a lot about experimenting in the kitchen. I don't know a lot about baking. And I know it's more precise than cooking is, right? Cooking, you throw a bunch of stuff together and if you put the right stuff in there, it tastes fabulous. Baking has more science behind it. But I'm gonna wing it anyway. I'm thinking cookies, I can probably get away with quite a bit because honestly, the texture of the cookie dough is going to be the most important. And so whether it's too dry or too wet, I know how to compensate for that. So the first thing I'm going to do to make it a little bit healthier is to cut down on the sugar. So the recipe calls for 1 1/3 cup of sugar. And I'm actually just going to use a 1/2 cup. And it calls for a 1/2 cup of brown sugar and a 1/2 cup of granulated sugar. And there we go. Okay, and then, so that's what we're going to do for sugar, I think. I hope it still tastes good. And then we're going to put in some baking soda. I have a teaspoon of baking soda. Is that a teaspoon? Yeah. It's time to fill this up. Okay, so there's a teaspoon of baking soda and a 1/2 teaspoon of baking powder. I should have at least had these open. I'm sorry. Yeah, this is cooking with Lorrie, so this is how we do it. I have a 1/2 teaspoon of baking powder. And what else? This says a 1/2 teaspoon of salt. I'm not gonna put that much salt in for sure. I'm just gonna do a quick zhuzh of the Himalayan pink salt, and that should be good. And then, okay, so here, oh, okay, and I didn't, this just calls for cinnamon. So I'm actually gonna throw in a few extra spices to compensate for taking out that sugar. I'll add a little more flavor, and hopefully that will compensate for it. So I am going to add a teaspoon of cinnamon, like it calls for, or almost just a teaspoon. Then I'm also going to add, that's just because I love these flavors together, I'm going to add a little bit of ground allspice. So this is a 1/4 teaspoon, I believe, and I'm going to do about half of that, so about 1/8 of a teaspoon of that. It smells so good. If you've never used allspice, it's really nice. And then I am going to go actually with a 1/4 teaspoon of the nutmeg. And that's what I'm going to use for spices. So I am making an oatmeal raisin cookie. So oatmeal raisin could be one of the healthier cookies that there are. Next, instead of butter, I'm going to use, I've got an avocado here and it's quite soft, so I'm going to use that in place of my fat. I don't know, will it work? We'll find out. I don't know. Anyway, and then I'm going to throw in this is an unsweetened applesauce. And what else? Okay, so I got my 2 eggs here. Let's smash them. So as you may or may not remember, I make my own vanilla, and this is the vanilla I made with brandy. I've been using the little jar and it's almost empty, so that's why I grabbed the big one, because I'm going to need to refill this with some of the brandy, and then I don't even know if I have any brandy on hand. It's not something I usually keep on hand, because it's not like we drink it. Teaspoon of vanilla. I'm going to add actually a little more than a teaspoon of vanilla, and again, that's to compensate for the less sugar. I've been told it makes a difference, so keep your fingers crossed for me. All right, well, let me get my paddle in here, and I'm gonna get this going. Smells pretty good, and it liquefied up pretty nicely. So I'm gonna turn this now just to 1, and I'm gonna start adding my other ingredients. Now the recipe calls for 1 cup of flour, and so I'm gonna put in a 1/2 cup of flour, regular. That's just regular whole wheat flour. And then I'm going to add, so here's, again, I'm going to try modifying a bit. I'm going to add 1/4 cup of brown rice flour. And I'm going to add 1/4 cup of ground flax. Because why wouldn't you, right? So we're going to put that in. And then it calls for 3 cups of oats. And so I'm actually going to put in 2 cups of oats, regular quick cooking oats. This is the 1/2 cup. If you wonder why it seems like I'm putting in 4, I'm not actually putting in 4, I'm putting in. And then I have some steel cut oats, and I'm going to put in 1 cup of those. La da da, la da da. Okay, and then it calls for 1 cup of raisins. And that is about what I have left in here, so I'm just going to break these in here. Oh, I'm making a mess all over the place with raisins. Ah, Dave's kidding me. I'll scrape this down, but it's looking a little bit wet to me yet. So I think that it needs a little bit more structure in it. So I'm going to add another 1/2 cup of my quick oats. It smells fabulous. Okay, I'm gonna get these in the oven.
What do we owe the honor of cookies?
Well, I want to find a way to feed you things that are more instant, but are still healthy.
You mean instead of looking for ingredients, we just go grab a cookie jar?
Yeah. Because that actually has, how is it?
Good.
Is it good?
Instead of the ingredients, we got the whole thing made.
Yeah. So taste it again. Make sure it's good.
What'd you make it out of?
Well, taste it again and I'll tell you.
Raisins.
Mm-hmm.
Oatmeal.
Mm-hmm.
Flour.
Mm-hmm.
Sugar.
Mm-hmm.
Or honey.
sugar. But they're low sugar. I didn't put in as much sugar as the recipe calls for, and I added some steel cut oats and some flax, some ground flax. And I made it with avocado and applesauce instead of butter. So they're good?
Applesauce works for everything.
Yeah.
Avocado is like butter.
It is, right? But it's healthier. So, yeah. I'm going to take him to Dave and see what he says. Can we turn this light on?
Why?
So that you have better lighting? That's a reason, honey.
My lighting was all right.
No, it wasn't. Not for the camera.
Well, screw your camera.
No. What do you think of the cookies?
Okay.
They're okay?
Yeah.
You want me to tell you what I made them with?
Am I going to puke?
No.
What?
Well, I used avocado instead of butter.
Okay.
And I used apple sauce instead of lard.
Okay.
And I cut the sugar by 1/3 of a cup.
Okay.
And I added a little bit more spices.
They're all right.
And I used steel cut oats, brown rice flour, and ground flax.
They're not like Mom used to make.
They're not like Mom used to make. Is that good or bad? My turn. Mmm. They are really yummy.
I need one for sustenance on my way by.
Didn't you already have two?
Yes.
Sneaky old lady. They are pretty good. They have really good flavor. The texture's a bit off and they didn't spread. I think that means I put too much for dry ingredients, and maybe I should have actually added a little bit of butter so that it would have melted a little more, because avocado, I guess, doesn't really melt. But they taste really good. The flavor is fabulous. So yeah, a little bit of modification and I'll have more cookies. Well, I'm not going to change them this time, but the flavor is really good. So I am certain that I will make these again because it is handy and healthy, and, you know, 3 of them is a good snack. And I don't have all the measurements to know how much of what is in there, but it's good, healthy ingredients. So that should help.